Greetings, growers from around the world. Jordan River here, back with more Growcast, and that's music to your ears. Today we have Garden Goblin Genetics. Red Scare Seed Co. is back on the line, and he's changing it up. That's right, he's got a new name, a new brand, and we're excited to talk to him about it today. We talk about growing in different climates, growing peppers, different expressions of different plants that he's working with, and the future of Garden Goblin Genetics. Before we jump into it, though, shout out to AC Infinity, baby. ACinfinity.com. Code GROWCAST15 to get your savings and keep the lights on here at Growcast. We appreciate your support, and we love AC Infinity. They make the best grow tents around, extra thick poles. They've got nice, durable, thick siding. Now they have the new side ports. People have been asking for those, and AC Infinity, listen. Plus, they've got everything else you need to grow. They've got lights and pots and fans, and their oscillating fans, the Cloud Ray system. Check out their humidifiers, the Cloud Forge. How nice is your humidifier? Maybe it's time to replace that. The Cloud Rays are my favorite oscillators on the market, and of course, their Cloud Line series, what they got it all started with all those years ago when we were partners with AC Infinity. All they made were those inline fans, and they're the best in the game. So shout out to the entire AC Infinity suite. They've got everything you need to get growing, from fans to tents to lights. Code GROWCAST15 works at ACinfinity.com. You support us, and you're getting some badass, durable grow gear while you're doing it. So thank you to all you listeners using code GROWCAST15, and thank you to AC Infinity. All right, let's get into it with Dr. Grenskye. Thank you for listening, and enjoy the show. Hello, podcast listeners. You are now listening to Growcast. I'm your host, Jordan River, and I want to thank you for tuning in again today. Before we get started, as always, I urge you, share this show. Send this episode to somebody. Turn someone on to growing. It's the best thing you can do to help us and our mission of overgrow. And of course, see all the action at growcastpodcast.com. There you'll find the membership and the seeds and the classes and all the fun stuff we do. Today, we've got a breeder feature. That's right. You guys love the breeder features. A return guest, good friend of the show, and also somebody who's undergoing a brand transition. We're going to talk about all that today. Dr. Grenskye from formerly Red Scare Seed Co. is on the line. What's up, Dr. Grenskye? How you doing, man?
Oh, doing great. How's it going, Jordan?
Going good, man. Doing very well. Doing my thing here at Growcast. We love catching up with you and talking about all your breeding work and your farming. We're going to talk about peppers today. But first, let's get into this brand transition. Red Scare Seed Co. is no more. You're changing names.
Yeah, figured it was time. I've been facing a great deal of burnout for the past couple of years. As Red Scare Seed Company, I've kind of been through a lot of changes. I've seen a lot of change in the industry, been involved in a couple of lawsuits. It's been a crazy ride. I was just kind of looking forward to changing things up, getting some different marketing out there, and kind of running with something that's a little bit more fun, a little less militant per se than Red Scare Seed Company.
Sure, I could see that.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, moving forward, I don't know if it'll be early 2024, I would assume. I'll be going in as Garden Goblin Genetics.
Garden Goblin, baby. You're a goblin of the garden.
That's right.
I liked the art that I saw. Very good stuff. Garden Goblin Genetics. Going to be the new handle as well. Probably switch up your Instagram account. Try to get away from, man, the algorithm does not like your accounts. So I know you probably want to get away from that.
Yeah, it's time. I've had my hashtags have been hidden since 2020. So it's really hard for anybody to kind of like find me on Instagram and look up my strains and find pictures. Because anytime somebody tags me or anything like that, I can't see the tag. I can't go live on Instagram. They've kept my accounts from going live. So I get people to ask me all the time, hey, man, will you jump on live with me? And I'm like, I can't.
Yeah, totally.
I can't jump on live with you. They won't let me. So, I'm just tired of the censoring bullshit, and it's time to start fresh. Maybe somewhere down the line, if I'm working behind the scenes on a strain that's an old RSSC strain, I might bring back some old school packaging or something like that. But moving forward, it's going to be Garden Goblin from here on out.
Nice. The big shift, everybody. So now you know. Keep an eye out for that change. And, of course, when you get that account up and running, do you have that one up and running? What's the handle on Instagram?
I do. It's Dr. Gobble Garden, Gobble.
I love it. Yes. Goblin the Terps.
So that's the backup to my backup's backup account.
Jesus Christ, man. I want to talk about IG censorship for just a second. I mean, listen, everybody gets on these shows and they do the same thing. They crow about how it's completely unfair, right? Like this is a platform that is hypocritical in its enforcement of these policies. Cannabis is legal in a lot of states, and people are doing it in a legal fashion, a licensed manner, and they're getting taken down on this platform. That on the same platform, people are skirting, selling sex laws and posting all sorts of inappropriate content and hard drugs and violent things. And it seems to me like there's, I don't know, I don't want to get conspiratorial about it, but I'll put it this way. We had our first Growcast account impersonator. And we haven't had a lot of impersonators because I don't think it's easy to impersonate Growcast. There is only one at Growcast. There's no eyes in it that you can double up. There's no anything. But I saw that there was an account at Growcasts that was a fake account, right? So I'm thinking, if people are getting reported and taken down, why don't I leverage my audience and report this guy and take him down? Well, I had everybody report him, and I know that a lot of people did end up reporting him. Hey, this is impersonating somebody. Here's the account. Here's what it is. Lo and behold, I get an email from Instagram saying, we reviewed the account. We didn't take it down. And sorry, you're shit out of luck. And I'm thinking, Red Scare, how do people get taken down by their haters if my audience, which, I mean, it isn't like a massive audience, but I've got a pretty dedicated following, reported this page dozens of times to the point where Instagram actually reviewed it and wrote me, I don't think it was an email, I think it was like a notification in my app, and said, no, we're not going to take it down. I screenshotted it. I'll post it. That's fucking wild, Red Scare. And it seems like there's no rhyme or reason to this. So I just don't know what to make of it at this point, I guess. And I know you've been on the shit end of that. You've gotten banned time and time and time again. And I always thought like, oh, there must be some hater reporting you. But is that really even it? Like, what the fuck is doing this?
Yeah, that's tough. I think initially it could be, somebody's hating and reporting a lot of your posts, mass reporting. And then perhaps it goes through an AI system and then that system starts flagging, certain words, certain things, pictures start getting flagged and picked up by the AI monitoring system. And then that's how your page is getting constantly flagged.
It could raise the sensitivity due to the haters, or you're right. But it was like, I was thinking, well, here I am hating on this guy and it doesn't work. So how do they get these taken down?
Yeah, I don't know. I've seen it time and time again. I've had to report fake accounts. And this is something we've talked about. It's like you can report somebody that's running seed auctions and not coming through. They're just scamming the community, or somebody's just like pretending to be someone else. And it's clear, with the underscores and weird spots and things like that.
Right.
And these people are imitating, that they're scamming, and then you report them and nothing happens because they're not going against community guidelines. But then you post a picture of a plant or you post a pack of seeds up without a dollar sign or for sale or anything like that. Just a picture, which is what got my last account removed, was just a picture of a bud.
So weird.
And that gets flagged, and that goes against community guidelines. So what are the community guidelines we're breaking that they're not breaking?
Yes.
It just makes sense.
Yeah. And then some pages post bud pics all day and get tons of engagement. It's like, what is happening here? The only other thing I can think of is that some people might be employing bots. Poetry of Plants was talking about this, how when you get like really deep into it, like the big accounts trying to take each other down, they like get on Telegram and there's people who have bots that take down pages and there's bounties and it gets real dark.
Definitely.
But I don't think I'm, a victim of that. It's just sad that, like I get my audience to point out to the platform, and obviously I don't expect anything else from Instagram. They don't do anything about it. So that's really the lesson, you guys, which is don't expect any help from Instagram. Don't expect anything from them. That's what I see time and time again is people, like I said, getting on these shows and saying, oh, this is so unfair. This is so unfair. Like, of course it's unfair. At the end of the day, it's their platform and this is how it's going to be. So I hope that one day one of these platforms opens up to our community and just lets us be like any other community on their platform. That's all I want,
Yeah, that would be nice. And there was a time when Instagram was like that.
Yes.
And that's what's crazy is when everybody kind of shifted from Facebook to Instagram because Facebook was closing down seed groups and clone trader groups and things like this. So everybody kind of fled to Instagram, and everybody loved the format. And for a couple of years, 3 or 4 years, everybody was good on Instagram. Nobody was getting reported. Nobody's pages were getting taken down. And then all of a sudden, honestly, right around COVID time, it seems like everything really picked up. And I don't know if people just had extra time on their hands, or if they realized they can make money and taking down accounts, or what the case was. But it seems like there's been a serious uptick since then, and there's been no turning back.
That is true, man. Yeah, that's exactly right. And yeah, it's tough. Things were good. You're right. It was like a kind of a truer, more open algorithm. It felt like you were seeing the posts that you engaged with the most and the stuff you wanted to see. And it's just gotten so much stranger. There was a weird sexualized switch that was switched on. I don't know when that happened, but I think since growing is so male dominated, if you follow grow pages, all your suggested reels are like sexual pornographic reels, which is really wild.
Yeah.
It's just strange, man. I just wish that Twitter or X or whatever it's called now came out and said something. I don't know if I've talked about this on the show, but forgive me if I have, but I'm going to bring it up again. They came out and said something, which was, we're going to start accepting ad dollars from cannabis companies. Do you remember this?
I do.
It's a couple months ago. And then what happened? Everybody goes, Twitter is a pro-cannabis platform. And everybody's like, here's my Twitter, here's my Twitter, here's my Twitter. But what I've kind of seen is just because they are saying they're accepting ad dollars for advertisements from cannabis companies doesn't mean that their algorithm is equalized for all content. It doesn't mean that they're going to share your cannabis post. And that's kind of what I saw over there. I just wish one company would open up and say, hey, this is a community like any other. Maybe you got to tick the 21 and up box, right? But we're going to let you do your thing and have your space. I wish that would happen on one of these platforms.
Yeah, that would be nice. It would be a breath of fresh air for sure.
And I think it would be good money.
We deserve that, I mean, I pay taxes. I pay a lot of taxes, unfortunately, living here in Illinois. A lot of us are just out here paying taxes with zero representation, and quite the contrary, it's just suppression. It's typical. This is America's got its history in how they treat small farmers and the small guys, and this is on par.
No kidding, dude.
It rolls off of my back. I'm used to this shit.
Yeah, I like that. I like that attitude. And the final thing I'll say on this before we get into today's growing episode is I don't think there's any replacement platform that's going to be cannabis only, because that's not what people want. We want a space in the public world, our own little section of it. But when people create cannabis specific platforms, no one else joins it. And then it's going to be really quiet. So I don't know what the answer is. I would love to be more involved in stuff like this. Representation and lobbying of these types of groups, of allowing us to do our thing. That would be my dream. So I don't know if anybody has any ideas or anything, definitely reach out. But nonetheless, I'm glad you're still hanging in there. We got the new brand, Garden Goblin Genetics. I'm excited about this. I want to talk about cultivation. I want to talk about peppers, but let's start with breeding. What can we look forward to with Garden Goblin? Are you dropping this new brand with some new strains? Well, what can we look forward to?
Yeah, that's the process. I'm hunting some stuff, just looking for something really special. I don't want to just have a soft opening. I want to have something special. I'm not going to disclose too much right now, but I'm just working with some heirlooms and some really what I would consider true exotic stuff to see if I can pull some magical terps out.
Nice.
Just something really aromatic and different, while still bringing, that modern zest, that bag of pill and that crusty resin everybody loves.
Mm-hmm. When you talk heirlooms, and you don't have to give away too much. You don't have to give away the secret sauce, but can you give us a hint?
Yeah, I've got some stuff for oat stuff from Kentucky. I know that's kind of been a hot thing for a while, but growing up in Kentucky, I had a friend whose father passed away and gifted genetics. Some of which are probably bunk, some of which are probably amazing. So I've been kind of going through some of those, and so I'm digging back into the Azad Kashmir lines and some of the original stuff that I did with Azad, Kashmiri duck sauce, things like that are just heavier yielding versions of the Azad Kashmir with a little more potency. The Azad itself, It can grow kind of like a cookie structure, little golf ball buds all up and down the plant
Mm-hmm.
that are just really crusted with resin. It's really an amazing plant. And I've seen a few people working with it lately. Copa Genetics, Three Paw Fox. There's been a few guys that have been running the Azad that I think came from Bear Frog, and Bodie had those as well. So there were a few of us guys back in the day that got gifted the Azad Kashmir from Bear Frog, and those have been just absolutely amazing. Just really fun, a nice cross between what you'd expect from an Afghani high, but that Himalayan open structure with really tight frosty buds. It's really fun stuff.
That sounds amazing, man. That cashmere exoticness, exotic, like you said, like I feel like far from a faraway land. That's what we're after, but still with that modern twist. That sounds great. What are we going to be hitting it with? What are you looking to pull out of that strain and add to others?
Resin, aroma. It's really cool. The Azad, I don't know. I went a long time without ever smelling meaty terps, like true meat. There's a lot of meat breath out there and stuff that, it's not quite meaty. It's just kind of, has that umami thing going on.
Mm-hmm.
But this Azad is everything from roast beef to grilled chicken. And I've talked about it before. You've probably heard me talk about it a few times. And it just deserves a bigger look. And I feel like commercially it's not really viable yet because the yields are so low on it. So with certain crosses like the Kashmiri duck sauce, where I cross that into like Platinum Gorilla and Howard the Duck, it really brings up the yield while keeping that rich, savory, meaty terpene profile.
Damn, that's nice. And what do you like that meat, that true meat terpene profile for? Does that work for you medicinally? Does it work from a tolerance perspective?
Yeah, so my guess is that there's a lot of beta-caryophyllene in there. I probably butchered that pronunciation, but it's really, it's relaxing without being sedative.
Sure.
And long lasting. So it doesn't like just ride with you for a little bit and then lay you down. It just rides with you for a while. And that's something I like in a bud is that it gets you high and it keeps you there for a while without needing to just constantly, take another rip off the bowl or light up another joint or anything like that, constantly dabbing. It's just a really smooth medicine. And that's what I love so much about it.
Oh, that's nice. So crossing that with some classics and making a whole new drop here for the new brand.
Yeah, definitely. Digging into a bunch of smaller breeders. Obviously, I've got some stuff from Rhizo that is going down.
Nice.
Really excited about that stuff. We've got his double stuffed Oreo. Peaches and Regalia, Peach Supernova and Veg. So I'm excited to hunt through those and see what I can find. It'd be nice to collab with him and get something going. And yeah, just looking to kind of highlight some other guys' work by finding those rare phenos that just really stand out.
Can you share maybe one that you're excited about winding up on the list that you're potentially winding up on the list, let's say?
Yeah, a strain, is that what you're saying?
Yeah. From a smaller breeder.
Okay, yeah. I've got some from Fire in the Hole Genetics. Goji OG crossed the white caviar that look really incredible.
I like that Goji OG. I forgot about Goji OG.
People forget about Goji, and that's criminal because it's really good.
Totally.
I've had a few phenos that were iffy, but for the most part, if you can lock down a heavy OG leaner, it's golden. It's really good medicine. The flavor is just up there. It's just that sweet, like, I don't want to say sweet because it's not too sweet. It's pungent, but you get a hint of that sweetness in that heavy kush, and it's just really good.
Good call, man. I had some good Goji OG in Humboldt in like 2015. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
I want to say so. I assume it's that old. That's what I remember in my head. I remember getting some really good Goji on the West Coast.
Yeah, we were getting Goji in like 2013 down in San Diego, and I assume it's the same. I don't know when Bodie actually made the Goji, so it'd be interesting to see a timeline.
Yeah, you're right. It was probably the same stuff all up and down that coast. We were probably smoking the same shit.
Probably.
Thousands of miles away, however long California is, 1,000 miles away.
Right.
So that sounds great, dude. This sounds like a fun little pollination. gearing up for
Yeah.
the drop, big name change. I'm liking it, man. I'm liking it a lot. What else can you tell us about your breeding work and this change before we get into peppers?
Yeah. I've still been hunting a lot of cherry lines. Really, really enjoyed the Luden's cough drop that I've been working with. I found just an absolute stunner pheno that's going to be around years and years. It's absolutely incredible, inside or out. It just stacks really hard, throws down a ton of resin, and just has that deep cherry kush aroma that's just intoxicating. It's really nice.
Does it smell like a cough drop?
It actually does kind of smell like a cough drop with a hint of that evergreen as well. It's incredible.
I love it. I love that.
I'm also hunting a bunch of cherry jelly from 305 Genetics, small dude down in Florida, and really excited about those. Hoping I can find something special in that, and I'm sure I will. He does pretty good work. He's slept on, just a smaller dude, but a lot of these guys have a lot of passion and haven't faced the burnout like some of the bigger guys that I have. And so I'm looking at these guys like, hold on, these guys still have like mad passion for the plant. They haven't been tainted by the industry or, restrictions.
Jaded yet, like me and you.
So I'm like, yeah, exactly. So I'm like, I'm gonna work with these guys, Gary, and see what comes of this. I got a feeling there's special shit in here.
That's cool, dude. That's really cool. I totally agree, 100%. So, actually, you know what? Before we get into all the cultivation stuff, let's talk pheno hunting for a second, because I'd like to ask you, I don't know, some basic questions, some kind of 30,000 foot view questions, and just talk about going through phenos. First, starting from seed, do you notice any correlation between seed properties and the buds that come out of them? You know what I mean, right? Like people have said, oh, like big seeds, big fruits. But other people have said, no, I've gotten really big plants out of small seeds. Is there anything to the seed morphology, or is it just kind of random?
I think that's pretty random. As long as the embryo is fully formed, I think it's really just a crapshoot. Now, once they germinate and you see a seedling out of like 10, and it might be the one that catches your eye, if you label that as number one, there's a great chance that by the time that thing's done flowering, that's still your number one. I've had that happen to me so many times, dozens and dozens of times, where I just see a plant in veg and I'm like, that's it. And, it might only be 3 inches tall as a seedling, but it just has that special something. I go ahead and write the tag and put number one beside it. Everything else falls in line. And a lot of times that ends up being your number one.
That is very cool. And when you're looking to check all the boxes, certain things you can tell quite early, right? Like I've totally had that before, where the first one out of the gate from the seeds always ends up like you said, the biggest yielder, probably eats healthy, like eats effectively, which is going to result in more trichome creation if it's more effectively taking up nutrients and carbon and creating this stuff, right? So yeah, I like that. Do you start culling from right away? Like when are your favorite times to cull?
I'll cull. This is tough. Usually around 18 inches, I can tell what I want as far as vegetative patterns and structure wise, how well they handle feedings, a misfeeding, drybacks, things like that. Really lets me know lower branch structure, because that's going to tell me how it's going to develop and flower, if it's going to stay tight to the plant or if it's going to branch out some. A lot of these things help me dictate. I could probably go in. I'm looking at a tray of seedlings now that are like 12 inches tall. I could probably go in and thin the tray by half and not really regret any of my moves.
Right.
I've probably killed some unicorns. So I don't know if I'm the best to give advice on when to cull or when not, because I run so many seeds, it's hard for me to back everything up. So a lot of times you have to flower something relatively small. If it's really nice, try to re-veg it.
Yes.
Well, I'm also the worst person to ask about re-vegging. I usually just say, fuck it, throw it away, and just run more seeds because I just want to see what else I've got.
Oh, it's hilarious, dude.
It's not for a year or two later that I'm like, damn, I wish I didn't scrap that. That'd be nice to have right now.
Oh, it's true. It's so true. Okay. Well, I want to dig into what you just said, because there's some important distinctions there. First of all, when you're looking for something that checks all the boxes, you can cull at 18 days or whatever it was you said, because you're looking for the perfect structure. So if it doesn't have the perfect structure and you want it to check all the boxes, you kick out the ones that don't have the perfect structure. That's a really good way to look at it.
Yeah.
Breeding goals are different though, right? So somebody asked, this is a funny question that kind of like broke, it's a simple question, but kind of broke my brain, which is somebody was talking about hunting. I think they were talking about lime terps or something. And they said, I want to do a pheno hunt for lime terps. This is a member of my community. And they asked this question. They said, how long do I have to take a strain to know if it has those true lime terps or not? And I was like, all the way through cure. Like, right? If you really want to know, you can't be culling at week 3 of flower because something isn't producing the right smell, in my opinion, because things change so much, right? Do you agree with that?
90% of the time, yeah. I do. If it's just overwhelming with like jack terps or something really hazy and you know that lime's never coming, you can probably ditch it. But for the majority of the time, you really do have to finish that thing all the way out to know, and potentially cure it as well, to know if what it cures into is going to be lime or not. But if you're looking for a specific lime and you want it to smell that way all through flower, maybe you can go in at week 4, week 5 and get rid of it because it doesn't have that zesty lime that you're wanting.
It's just funny because he was basically asking, like, you know, to know the true expression of a plant, how far do you have to take it? And I've seen so many plants that smell completely different in week 2 than week 8, or they just make like a hard turn right before harvest. Like, you're just getting sweet. And then like week 9, it's like funk, you know?
Yeah.
And then, like you said, it cures into something else.
Yeah. You know, I had American Shit Show for a while, and it had lemon Wookie glue in with the American Skunk Selection and GMO fuel. So for like week 1 through 6, it was just kind of zesty lemon skunk, kind of that generic Las Vegas lemon skunk shit. Some people love it. To me, it's generic, I guess, because I was in SoCal and got so much of it. So week 6, it's kind of starts shifting, and then by week 10, all of a sudden, you've got like skunk ass,
yeah,
and feces and rotting onion, and it's just absolutely putrid and disgusting. So a lot of changes can happen, especially on a 10-week plant, 10+ week plant. A lot of changes in the aromas can happen over a month.
Okay, that's really interesting because I totally agree with that, especially with the long flowering strains. You said GMO was in that cross, correct? Did I hear you correctly?
Yeah.
So it's a long flowering strain that tends to drag, and that's probably where a lot of that funk came from. And it didn't want to start expressing until later in flower because it's a longer flowering strain. That might make sense. So suddenly you get hit with these things in week 6, 7, 8, like you said. So fascinating. Though that terpene expression had its own timer, you know, and it didn't want to start expressing that until later on. Or maybe some of the more dominant notes fade away and then you're smelling something underneath. It's just very complex.
It is. Yeah.
That's a good example with the American Shit Show. That's exactly what I'm talking about. So yeah, you're right, man. Like pheno hunting, people don't want to hear this, but most of the work, if you're really going to do it and do it big and do it right, a lot of the work is just labeling everything, right? Taking studious notes, getting that re-veg down. Like, it's a bunch of hard work, right?
It really is, yeah.
I bet you're always in the garden labeling shit and tagging shit.
Constant.
It's probably endless, yeah.
I'll be taking cuts after this and transitioning things and seeing if I've got anything else that, you know, is the next keeper.
Yeah, I feel you. So any other like general tips for pheno hunting?
Yeah. Before you go into your pheno hunt, just go ahead and set a list of goals. See what you want from the plant. What do you expect from the plant? For example, I'm running one of my crosses. It's got SFVOG in it, Wookie, and then one of my crosses, Royal Tenenbaum. So I knew right off the bat that I wanted something that has better structure than the SFVOG that's in the Sun Raw, and something that wasn't quite as tall as my Tenenbaum. So I was able to cull the majority of my plants at like week 5 and then run with what I had, and I found something really nice in that. So set yourself some goals. See what it is you want out of the plant. Make a list, and then if you start noticing a plant isn't hitting the checks, you know, isn't checking off the boxes, then get rid of it and move on. Because it can take a lot of time, and you don't want to waste your time with something that might be nice but isn't what you're looking for.
Yeah.
If you're trying to fill a room with a cut, and you're trying to find that specific pheno for that room, then that would be my suggestion.
That's exactly right. The clearer that you are on your goals, the more easy every decision along the way is going to be.
Exactly.
Growcast membership, the Order of Cultivation, our little community of growers. We would love to have you in our ranks. We are a group of positive and like-minded growers, and we're here to help you in your garden regardless of your growing style. If you like this show, you will love Growcast membership. Go to growcastpodcast.com/membership and get in on the hundreds of hours of bonus content that's archived and waiting there for you. You have a weekly live stream in Growcast TV and the AMA twice a month. That's an Ask Me Anything, where we take care of all your garden questions. Plus, tons of giveaways, members-only Discord, and so much more. It's all waiting for you. I would love to have your support and smoke with you on our Discord and hang out with you in the chat. So check out growcastpodcast.com/membership. Get in on the members-only discounts, all the giveaways. I'm in the chat every single day. We got tons of helpful moderators and members waiting to be your new Gromies. So check us out. That's growcastpodcast.com/membership. Growcast membership, also known as the Order of Cultivation, our little fancy name. Hope to see you inside our ranks. I appreciate all of you listeners. And, of course, overgrow, happy growing. I want to talk about gardening. I want to talk about your garden. I want to talk about growing outdoors and what you're doing to regenerate your land. I remember you talking about how you're working your topsoil when you first came on this show, like 2 years ago. So we're going to get a long-standing update on that. But first, the important stuff. How are the peppers? What's going on with these peppers? Talk to me about the peppers.
Oh, they're doing great. They're taking their sweet time, making me wait, but they're doing really good. I've scaled back the amount of super hots I grew this year. Last year was almost nauseating with the amount of heat that I grew. So this year I went with a lot of Tabasco, Cayenne, Arbol, Guajillo, just peppers that have more of a culinary purpose as opposed to just like melting your face off.
Yeah. I think it's a good move. I got some Tabascos going myself.
Tabascos are so to grow too. They little bitty pinkies that just kind of grow up right. They're fun to watch.
Yeah, exactly. I love them. I absolutely love them. So you breed your peppers, no?
I do on occasion, yes.
I want to talk about this because I want to convince some cannabis growers at home today to grow some peppers of their own. And one of the reasons that we suggest growing peppers in the breeder class is because you can completely understand how breeding works. First of all, it's so easy and fun. But if you're not really willing to take that step with your cannabis plants, grab yourself some peppers and start cross-pollinating them. Can you talk about that? And can you talk about the, what is it called? The demasculization process or whatever?
Yeah. Breeding peppers is a really great way. It's just a great visual representation of a genetic breakdown. So, for example, I've got some chocolate ghost scorpion out right now. One plant is growing just true to the red boot loss side of things and just long red peppers. And then the other plant right beside it is growing short, squat, really warded, knotted up, 7-pot style peppers. So your genotypic variation is going to represent itself directly in front of you. You're going to be able to see how each allele carries itself through the line. And it's just really cool to see. I think it's probably easier to see that representation of genetic breakdown through peppers than it is in cannabis, because cannabis can be so muddied at times.
Sure. Yeah. It's way less like, you're right. There's so many more compounds that can be produced. And like, I totally agree with that. So you can really see the distribution of the different characteristics, but they are not male and female like the cannabis. They're not separate males and females like the cannabis plant, these peppers. So when you want to cross two, you have to like choose which one's going to be the dad and which one's going to be the mom.
Yeah. So last year in our greenhouse, we only grew 2 varieties in the greenhouse so that we could cross those 2 together. I didn't want any cross-pollination from anything else going on. So that was the easiest way to do it. and it worked out great. So this year is more open. I'm not going to be keeping many seeds from the greenhouse this year because it would be too hard to track what's what. There's so many pollinators in the greenhouse that, there's going to be some big variety in the plants, I would assume.
Yeah, that's a good point. This is really easy to do with like just a few plants, because when you get on a scale, it gets insane. But you can get into those flowers, remove the male parts to be the pollen receivers, and then leave the male parts on the ones you want to be the pollen donors. And they self-pollinate as well if you leave both parts. So you really end up with a lot of seeds, right?
You do, yeah.
Oh, man. I love it. So why should people grow peppers? What peppers would you recommend my audience starts with? That's a good question.
Yeah, so it depends on your heat tolerance. If you like the challenge of a really hot pepper, grow some Ghost out, grow out some Trinidad Moruga Scorpion or something that is appealing and looks cool. There's so many cool peppers out there right now that, I get lost in it. It's just another genetic world like cannabis where the varieties are so in depth and there's so many different varieties out there and so many different breeders that it's really hard to keep up with what's what at times. But find a plant that you like and just grow for it. If you like hot sauce, grow a bunch of cayenne, grow some Tabasco, buy some bourbon or, a piece. I don't know if you can buy chips from bourbon barrels, but I had a buddy that worked at a distillery and just gave me a whole ass barrel. So I'll be taking shavings from the inside and infusing that in with a lot of my peppers, for my sauces and things like that.
Oh my God. That sounds amazing, man.
Yeah. So find something that works for you, like culinary wise. PVP Farms sent me some Jamaican scarlets and they're beautiful. And I cut into one and was expecting a lot of heat, and it was really mild. The flavor was really nice pepper flavor, and just a really mild heat. My 9-year-old ate it, and so there's a different pepper for everybody out there, and they're fun to grow. Then you can make your own. Even if you don't want to eat the super hots, grow some super hots, ferment them. Use that ferment as an IPM. It's great, to just switch things up and use that capsaicin that the plant's giving you.
I love that. One of my favorite products was a pepper ferment extract. I don't think he manufactures it sometimes, but I don't think he's selling it all the time anymore. But it was Bug Be Gone by Jack Green's Garden product, not Jack's Dead Bug or Captain Jack. Bug Be Gone, and it was a pepper ferment. And I was like, I'm going to start growing some goddamn peppers. Is that the same as fermenting a hot sauce? So to make a hot sauce, I just learned this. It's just water and salt. Is that the same for making a IPM spray in your garden?
Yeah, the same thing. I'll even do garlic and onion. I'll take all of the steps that I'm going to use for a hot sauce, and I'll throw that in to my IPM ferments. And you can use dry peppers. Last year we had so many chocolate Ghost and Trinidad Scorpions that you can't eat them. What are you going to do? You use one in some sauce and it's hot for years. So we dried them, and then you can take the dry ones, reconstitute them with some water and ferment all the same. That makes a great IPM because, you're going to lose a little bit of flavor with the dried peppers, but they're still good for the IPM.
Yeah, exactly, man. That's some powerful stuff in the garden. Peppers also contain those natural oils. So I really do think it's a good option for a preventative.
Weigh your peppers out and then add, 3 to 5% salt by weight back into it, and then top it with water and burp it for the first week. And then after that, about once a week, and you're golden. After about a month, you'll have a good ferment. You can either sauce it or, blend it and strain it and use it for sprays.
So I just realized how easy this was to just apparently put it in a jar, salt and water. Like you said, some other mixes in there, and then bam, you got hot sauce. I didn't know fermenting was so easy. It just uses the natural bacteria on the surface of the plant and in the air. Fucking wild, man. How have I not done this before?
Don't feel bad. This is really my first year just getting into heavy ferments. We've done kombucha and things like that in the past, but this is my first year really fermenting peppers. So
Yeah, I'm growing the Tabascos right now, so I'm really excited about that. And the audience is going to definitely hear updates. So forgive my pepper updates.
I'll have to send you some bourbon shavings from this barrel.
Dude, hook it up. Yeah, exactly. Like I said, I'm throwing all sorts of shit in there now. So I'm excited. Jordan Rivers hot sauce coming at you.
Hell yeah.
So you're growing outdoor, you're growing indoor. Let's now talk about this update on your farm.
Yeah.
Like I said, I think the first episode you brought up how you're growing in containers and you have a history of growing indoors and outdoors, but on this farm that you're currently staying on, you're trying to regenerate the topsoil. Illinois, they do a lot of, I don't want to say factory farming, but you know what I mean, traditional like salt-based farming. They do not cover crop over the winter. They let their corn and soy fields lay fallow. They've done a lot of damage to that topsoil. Tell me about how you've been regenerating your land and how that's going.
Yeah, it's taken a while. We had to excavate when we built our greenhouses. We were new to to this property, so we didn't know how the washouts were going to handle over winter or anything like that. And so we had to choose, a plot at the end of the winter. And, the plot we didn't choose needed some serious remediation or rejuvenation with the soil and the topsoil. It had basically all been stripped off. Everything that grew up there just died instantly. So we brought in a literal ton of worm castings, a bunch of compost and manure, wood chips, and just initially tilled it all in. Just tilled every bit of it in, and then left it with some straw on top, and then went back and planted cover crops. Cover crops really struggled at first. Everything struggled. Our corn, we were just growing the corn and some wheat just to die up there to leave its root mass. And nothing produced for us. Everything was just dead the first 2 years.
Wow.
But we noticed, some microbial life coming back in last year and things like that.
Yes.
So we continued to bring things in, planted radishes, kale, things like that to just leave up there. This year, we've actually got a few crops up there that they're struggling, but they're going to make it. And so by next year, now I know what it needs. I had to bring in a little more calcium and things like that. So it's just been a constant, just updating and replenishing the soil for what it needs. It was really stripped of all its nitrogen. I put some hemp up there the first year, and the phosphorus was basically absent. The stems went purple immediately. So pest pressure was really high because the plants just didn't have that biome in the roots to build anything up. So this year, everything is looking really good. We've actually been able to grow in the ground in the greenhouse for the last 2 years because that was our main concern, was getting the topsoil and the soil in that, back up to par. And this year, everything we put in the ground is pretty much surpassed everything that's in the pots. So I'm not so sure that next year I'll even use containers anymore.
Man, it's that long game,
It's the long game. And it's not even that long, 2 years, 3 years. It seems like a long time when you're sitting there looking at a dead field and wondering, nothing's growing here. What am I going to do? I bought a farm and everything's fucking dead.
What the fuck? Yeah, totally. Is this even going to work? Is this shit even working?
Exactly. So you bring in the good stuff and it attracts the good stuff. So, we brought in a bunch of compost and worms and, all the wood chips and now you dig into the topsoil and there's a little ecosystem, there's a little biome there. So it's cool.
That's amazing. And then year 5, things are just going to be humming.
Yeah. Yeah. We're going to do some hugel beds and things like that. We didn't want to jump the gun and dig in again and do the hugel right away because I wanted to kind of see what the needs were, assess the needs and all that. Plus, I just didn't have the time. I didn't have the manpower. It's just that simple sometimes.
Yeah, man. And I totally agree with that perspective. And you were also working against, like I said, you had to regenerate that land. It wasn't just wild that you were then going to kind of cultivate and make the soil tillable or farmable.
Yeah. And this land, even before we had to excavate it, it was really rocky, just heavy clay. That's where the radishes and the turnips, things like that, come into play. They really do a good job at breaking up clay. And then once you cut the tops, leave the root to decompose, It really builds up that topsoil and brings in the worms and really speeds things up.
I love it, man. I absolutely love it. It's the same thing I saw on the coffee farms down in South America. They told the same story, hard the first few years, and then things start turning around, and then you have a sustainable system. And I like that with the mulch, with the wood chips, the cover crop. What do you like to use as a cover crop? I know it's, area dependent and all of that, but what worked well for you as a cover crop outdoors?
We did clover, a lot of heavy clover the first year, some wheat, some rye, some barley. We just wanted to get a mix of things in there, really. This year, it was a lot of radishes and turnips again, just to continue breaking up any clay that's down there. And so that was a big one, marigold, just go ahead and get it established up there and things like that.
Oh, nice.
Corn for us initially was a cover crop. It doesn't seem like a traditional cover crop, but it was. Even the plants that only grew to be, 12 to 14 inches tall still had a root system. They broke down. They became mulch, or compost. So all of that, depending on what stage and what level your ground is at, I think depends on what cover crop you might need to go for.
That's an interesting thought. And I imagine the corn would have a nice mix of the green leaves and a lot of lignin. It's like almost like wood falling at the end.
Yeah, and then they have those aerial roots. They kind of come up, and so that helps as well.
Okay, that's interesting. Very interesting. And then, like you said, the radishes and the turnips, things of this nature, really good for breaking up the soil and aerating the soil, right? If it's hard and compacted.
Yeah, we did soybeans as well, just to fix some nitrogen in there.
I love it. Playing the long game and dealing with the elements, like you have to work with what you have and Southern Illinois, not the most hospitable environment. Just last night, you got wrecked by some winds, didn't you?
Yeah. Nothing too serious. One of my little breeding plots got hit. I had some plants over, but they perked right up.
Yeah, I mean, how do you deal with that? Are you like me and you stake and you don't stake enough, and then the wind comes and it kind of pushes all your shit over? Do you recommend people get inside a greenhouse or a structure if they can?
If you can, it's nice. It protects you from the elements. It can give you a little bit of a cleaner product as well. This year we laid down fabric in the greenhouse for two reasons. One, to keep dust down because of our location. The cover crop is kind of hard to maintain in the greenhouse at times.
Mm-hmm.
And if it dies back at all, it gets dusty quick. So we laid down some cover crop this year and then went back and put the fabric down to just kind of get a nice blanket. And eventually we'd like to do away with that fabric and just go, natural. But for now, it's what's working for us. So if you can do a greenhouse, you might, even a small one or a small shelter, it might give you a little bit of a better product. For a lot of people, that's not an option. And I totally understand that. It wouldn't have been an option for us, but I think I've told you this. We signed the contract on our greenhouse 2 weeks before we found out that our hemp was stolen. So the timeline of that, had our hemp been stolen 2 weeks prior, we would have never signed the contract on the greenhouse. It kind of derailed plans and everything. But
yikes.
Back to the topic, I think outside staking is everything. Trellising, staking, the plants that took the hardest hit today either weren't staked at all, because I was like, this won't need it. It's growing, pretty sturdy and upright. Or it's either not staked at all or not staked enough. So if you can get a good stake in the ground and then build off that and trellis everything. I've seen a lot of people use 5-gallon buckets with concrete in the bottom half. And then you put up a fence post and then use that. Whatever you can do to get a secure structure to trellis your plant with is going to help it, through any of the storms. Mother Nature's going to have her ways. If she wants to fuck your crop up, she will. We all know this. It'll snap the branches off, trellis plants just the same. So a lot of it's just a roll of the dice. We play with Mother Nature. We put our plants out there, and we kind of have to. We can do some things to prevent trellis and put up support systems, but at the end of the day, we're still, at the mercy of the weather.
It's tough there, man. You're dealing with moths, you're dealing with wind, and you got to stay vigilant and survive the elements. I think you're smart to get in a structure if you can, like you said. But sometimes there's just no escaping it. Even getting indoors, you're still subject to your local environment to some degree, to a lot of degrees. So yeah, it's just one of those things, man. So before we wrap it up, what's the goals with the farm? Anything else going on that you're excited about? Anything else you want to tell us before we let you go and get back to planting?
Yeah, just working on new strains for this Garden Goblin, getting testing done, pictures, documentation. It's been a real pain in the ass with documentation. A lot of my latest drops, I would post pictures up and they'd get removed immediately. It became clear to me that it was time for a shift and to focus on something else. So, I've thought about teaming up with a few growers or something like that outside of the state, potentially teaming up, making some trips out and seeing what we can do together. All in all, for the farm here, just on the same path, replenish the soil, get things back to the way they should be before, the previous owners came in and wrecked things. And then, we had to excavate, so we didn't help either. It's just setting the land back to where it should be. So that if somebody was to come in and take this property over for us, we've got the fruit trees that are like healthy again because they were diseased when we moved in. We've got the topsoil that's replenished, so somebody can come in and basically have something set up and ready to go, and won't have to struggle for years like we did when we moved here.
Nice, man. I love it. Leave the land better than when you found it. I do like that quite a bit. That's great. Awesome, man. Well, listen, we are excited about the new brand, about the new drops, and we're rooting for you out there in Southern Illinois. Anything else you have for us? Where can people find you? And just tell us where to get at you.
Yeah, right now, you can find me still on Instagram for the time being, Red Scare Seed Company 2.0, and Dr. Gobble Garden, which will soon be my main page. That's it right now. My website's down. I'm in the middle of rebranding and getting logo designs and getting my new company up going.
We look forward to it, man. Go give him a follow right now, audience. The new account soon will be the main account, and don't miss it. Stay tuned for the next episode, of course, with Dr. Grenskye. Thank you for coming on the show today, man. We always appreciate the updates, and we wish you best of luck on this transition.
Thanks for having me, dude. Always fun to stop.
Always. Thank you, dear listener, and we will see you next time. Be safe out there. This is Dr. Grenskye and Jordan River signing off. Be sure to follow us. Check us out at growcastpodcast.com. You know what to do. Most importantly, be safe out there, everybody, and grow smarter. That's our show. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate all of you. Before we wrap it up, of course, I need to shout out Rooted Leaf Nutrients. That's the right. rootedleaf.com, code GROWCAST for 20% off your smart carbon nutrients. No pHing with Rooted Leaf. I just let it rip in my Pro Mix and it goes. Doesn't kill your worms, doesn't affect your biology, loaded with beneficial bacteria and all that good stuff that feeds the fungi in your soil. Rootedleaf.com. They've got their brand new Lush Green. That's their nitrogen input, and it is new and improved. If you haven't tried Rooted Leaf, give it a run, give it a try. You don't need to pH it. You are going to love the results, and you get 20% off, huge discounts, with code GROWCAST at rootedleaf.com. So thank you to Rooted Leaf for being our partners, and have a good time with that smart, carbon-heavy Rooted Leaf nutrients. Rootedleaf.com, code GROWCAST. Thank you for tuning in, everybody. I am done with my classes. I am excited for the rest of the year and the trip to Hawaii and beyond. So don't touch that dial. I've got some great stuff coming at you. Thank you for tuning in, and I appreciate each and every one of you. Be safe out there, everybody. See you next time.
There's a different pepper for everybody out there.